Are you a student or are you a critic? Are you a student or a critic? I don't know any better way to introduce this subject, this brief little discussion talk, other than trying to point out how important it is to be a student. I could be your teacher. I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I'm your teacher. I could be your teacher, but unless you're a student and know how to be a good student, I'm not going to help you at all. Hardly all. Very little. Is it true that the best taught people are self-taught in general, that really look into a matter themselves, that don't have to go through a formal process? I'm not against a formal process. Don't misjudge me. Try to understand the meaning here. And that the best people, I'm not saying saved or going to heaven, I'm just saying the best kind of personality trait is to be a student, not a critic. If we're not a student of life, of ourselves, of each other, of concepts, of character, of right and wrong, we're no better than an animal. That's what it means to be intelligent, right? That you're a student, that you evaluate things, you go deep. I've been in places where people say, I don't want to go deep. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, you don't want to go deep in your life? I'm not saying deep with me, but deep into concepts and subjects and trying to figure things out to the best of your ability. And, I'm a firm believer that almost all of us, most of us, unless we're impaired, that's understood, should be evaluating and being a student of a lot of things to try to figure it out. Me, I believe in God. I never did, but in my mid-20s, I was led in my own way to be convinced that there's a God. And, it led me later in life to study atheism. What is that about? Why do they believe what they do? What is it governed by? What are their reactions to life? How do they judge spiritual things? How do they judge the, not the rhetorical realm, but what's that thing you can study in college? Something with an R. I can't think of it right now, but it's more of a conceptual thing, not a physical thing. And it slips me, sorry. But, I want to be a student of things so I can understand what it means and what the perspective is and figure out if it's something that I should take into my life as a good personality trait. Me, I personally don't believe that. I believe it's a good character trait to believe in God. I think it's a bad character trait to say there's no God. And I could explain it, but that's not the purpose of this video, that I'm sure atheists believe they're the best students. They're some of the best students in the world, and they want to share their knowledge with people. But when I evaluated atheism, for example, it's TSM. This is about being a student. I'm okay with studying atheism. I want to know what it is. But when I study atheism, I find that it's limited to TSM, time, space, and material. They do not like spiritual things because that's not TSM, time, space, and material. And they don't like that kind of a thing in other genres of thought that aren't TSM. And that's why I don't fully embrace atheism. Sure, if an atheist has good character in many ways, certainly appreciate that and commend them. But I'm just saying I became a student in atheism. I'm a student of Buddhism. It doesn't mean I went formally into it, but I listened to their experts. When I studied atheism, I listened to the so-called 4 new horsemen of atheism, including Christopher Hitchens. Why? Because I'm open-minded. I have a character trait, not perfectly open-minded. There are things I can't hear, like certain things I just don't want to hear. Okay, I can accept that. But I'm open-minded enough that I can listen to something I don't agree with to try to understand it better, to see their perspective, not to see their perspective, but to be a student of it, to see what it is, so I can taste it and see if it's something I can swallow and thereby in which grow. And I feel atheism is, and this is for some other subject, that atheism is void of character framing. Because atheism is about time, space, and material, which has no character. So I'll just say that in brief. But my point is, and I'm not trying to pick on atheism or atheists, okay, God bless you, or whatever. I've even heard atheists bless other atheists when they get tickled by their teaching. It's like, why would you say that? But My point is, we need to being a student, being somebody who studies something out. That's a wise person. That is a form of wisdom, and it helps the person decide for himself, and not just depend on the teacher 100%. If I depend on the teacher 100%, I can't really learn. I'm not like participating in the learning. The best students are the ones that are studying the subject on their own. Then they come to you, who may be an advanced person on that subject. You can help them along in that genre. And all of us that teach know that that's exactly what happens. The ones that have been studying it, they're the easiest and best students. They're easiest to teach. They grasp it quickly. I'm not saying they accept it all or be convinced by it all, but they're easy to teach compared to people that do not study the subject. So I'm advocating that being a student is a good character trait, but if we're a critic or the opposite of a student, whatever that is, I don't understand it all, but I know that studying is important, and I just, if someone can't learn in your relationship, you've got a difficult relationship. You need to be really patient. It's like being with somebody that's comatose, or somebody that's I'm not saying to tell somebody this that can't learn. I'm not saying to blast them. Be gentle, be nice, be corrective, but be nice. And then, just in order to grow and become a better person, a better man, a better woman, a better child, we have to learn to study on our own with the aid of teachers when we need them. Because teaching is a valid calling, but being a teacher doesn't make you have good character. Talents do not qualify you as a good person. Character is separate from a talent. You could be a singer but be a rotten person. You can have a great talent and sing like a bird, all the range you want, but be a murderer, be a liar, be a cheat, be untrustworthy, dump every guy you want to marry, get married and divorced 40,000 times because you have no morals. You don't understand faithfulness, and other character traits. So let's be a student. Let's be a good student.